Recognize the gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Dingell, for her 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to all of the witnesses today. You all offer very important perspectives as college sports continues to grow and evolve, and we really need the input of all the perspectives. As I said at the top of this hearing, we're here today to discuss a national NIL framework, and there's a lot of work that remains to be done before any proposal can earn my full support, or probably many on this committee. And as my Republican colleague just said, I know not everybody understands how important sports is to many of our communities, but it is. And it's important really to the future of so many young people. I am concerned that this draft shuts down the debate on athlete employment status and revenue sharing, but the chair has made it clear we're going to keep talking. It also provides an antitrust exemption, which would allow the NCAA and member schools and conferences to come together to artificially limit how athletes can brand themselves and how much money they can receive. We need to make sure we're looking out for the college athletes and not those making off the pain, the sweat, and the tears of the athletes. As we move forward in this process, it's important that we include health, wellness, and safety guarantees. We need to strengthen Title IX, improve the equity for NIL, and ensure collective schools and conferences do a better job of spreading the wealth. In addition, I want to make sure that any governing body that oversees the NIL has representation from the athletes. But now let me turn to some specific questions. Ms. Tholl, can you discuss your experiences as a college athlete with NIL on the rise? How have things changed since you started college to where you are today? And I think it would be beneficial for members of this committee to hear you elaborate on what you think NIL's successes have been and challenges are, and what you view the path going forward to be.
For sure. Thank you for the question. So my NIL experience overall has been a great experience. I've enjoyed it. It's been something that has been low maintenance for me, and I think that's been the best part. You do have people that are making content every day, and that's great, and they're going out and building their brand and making money for themselves, and I think that's an awesome opportunity that student-athletes get to do that because we do put so much work into our sport, and it's great for people to recognize us outside of our sport and who we are as people. I do think at the start of NIL, I was very nervous and hesitant to get into it. I didn't know the rules. They were very vague, unclear. There wasn't a ton of help from institutions because they really do have to be hands-off the way that legislation is written. And as NIL has become a little bit more familiar to me, I've been a little bit more confident reaching out to companies and working with people, but I give a lot of thanks to our athletic department because they have been able to set up information sessions and workshops and finding ways for us to work with people so I don't get caught in a situation where I'm taken advantage of. And I have had that situation, and I was able to renegotiate and get myself out of it because of all the resources that we have, but I understand that that's not the case at every university, and that needs to be the case at every university. Every university needs to have education. These student athletes sometimes are going in blind, and they just see money, and they just run for it, and they're getting themselves in situations that sometimes you can't come back from. And that leads me to the guardrails. I think there needs to be education put in place for these student athletes so they understand and they realize the importance. I also think there needs to be education around taxes. I mean, some of these student athletes are making so much money and they don't realize that they have to report all this stuff and who they have to report it to. And I just think it's important that we educate all student athletes on this. But then I pass it off to the coaches. They're struggling right now with recruiting purposes, and trying to get student athletes to come is really hard because you're not supposed to use NIL for inducement to get people to come, but it still happens. And the way legislation is written in certain states, some universities have the opportunity to find a loophole in the writing and talk to these student athletes and promise things, and then those student athletes get there and the money's not there. And that's like my biggest fear is you come to college for your education and your parents send you off to these universities and they're supposed to take care of you and you're supposed to have a coaching staff that you adore and love, and then it's upsetting when you have a collective that isn't loyal and is fraud, and it's disheartening. I don't want to see that happen to student athletes, and it's going to change college athletics into professional sports, and I fear that because Olympic sports, a sport like mine, will get left behind. Women's sports will get left behind, and that's something I fear and I really want us to fight for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.